In the previous video, we went ahead and mocked up a user interface and saw how to use a JTable. In this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about n-tier architecture and also how to make a round trip to the database to get some data that you can use to put in your table. So I'm going to start with the n-tier architecture part, and in the last video we had a main file that was at our top level package demo UI, and then we created a sub package called UI that's holding the user interface components. So this is everything that the user interacts directly with. And we're going to add two other packages here. So the first package, new package, is data. And this is going to be code for fetching data. And specifically for this project, we're going to be fetching data from a SQL Server database. And then the other package we're going to create is logic. And logic is going to be the business logic for the program. So that's going to include the classes that we use to hold data and methods that we use to do calculations and basically anything that isn't directly related to the GUI or to the database, to fetching content out of the database. So let's go ahead and start with the data package, and I'm just going to go ahead and create a new Java class, and I'll call that database. And we need a couple of things. So the first thing we need is a place to hold a connection to the database. So I'll call that connection. And I only want to have one connection open to the database, even if I have multiple database objects, because I want to reuse that connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this be a static public connection. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow any database object to share the same data connection. I'm going to import this from java.sql. And then I want to have a connect method. And this is going to be public so that I can access it from other packages. And it's not going to return anything. It's just going to set this static property. So first thing we're going to do is initialize this to null. And then if connection is not equal to null, then we're just going to return. So this means we already have a connection, so we're not going to do anything special. Else, so here we want to make a connection, and we need a database driver to do that. So this is going to be connection is driver manager dot, and then there's a get connection method, and it's going to take a connection string, and it's going to take a username, and it's going to take a password. And then actually these are all going to be constants for my application. So constring, username, password. And for this demo system, I'm going to be using the IMDb database on cisdbss.pcc.edu. So the connection string, that's going to be, go ahead and make that private static string constring equal JTDS colon JDBC colon SQL Serve colon / cisdbss.pcc.edu / and then the name of the database IMDb. So basically this is saying we're going to use the JTDS driver for Java database connections to a SQL Server database, and then here's the name of the database, server and the name of the actual database itself. And then private static string username 275 student. So that's the same account that students in CIS 275 use to connect to the IMDb database. And same thing here for password. Okay, so this thing is giving me a warning because I'm not handling SQL exceptions. So I'm going to click there, Alt plus Enter, and surround with try catch. So if this works, connection will be set. Otherwise, I'm going to get an exception, and I'm going to print the backtrace, and let's just go ahead and exit at that point. Let's exit -1 and Alt plus Enter. Okay, so that looks good so far. So in order for this to work, I actually need to have this driver installed in my application. So there's a library that actually has the JTDS database driver. And I want to put that in a lib folder. So let's go ahead and create a new directory called lib. And that's where I'm going to put all the libraries for my project. So this one, I'm going to go ahead and search for JTDS. And I get to jtds.sourceforge.net, JDBC driver, and I actually want version 1.3.1. So let's go to download. And then under files, I have JTDS. And there's 1.3.1. And this dist.zip, I'm going to go ahead and download that. Okay, and then I already had a copy, so it's stored in open paren 1 close paren. Let's go to downloads and reload. Right click, 7-zip, extract to. And then I should have that folder. So the only thing I actually need is this jar file here. I don't need the rest of it. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that and drag and drop the jar file into my library. And take the defaults. So now inside of lib, I have jtds 1.3.1.jar. And then I have to add information to my project in order to use this jar file. So under File, Project Structure, Modules, under Dependencies tab, you might be at Sources first. Click on Dependencies and hit this little plus sign. And you want to add jars or directories. And then I'm going to navigate to that lib folder I created and just select that. And then say OK. And that should be all I need. So let me go ahead and just go ahead and hit the run button and see whether I get an error or not, or whether it builds and runs correctly. I'm not actually calling my connect method yet. But OK, so it ran. That's good. And then for testing purposes, I'm going to go ahead and in my logic package, I'm going to create a class for genres. And then a genre right now is just going to have a private string property called name. And let's go ahead and make a constructor. That takes a name string and sets name equal to n. And then let's also add a getter for name. Good. So there's a pretty minimal class. And then I'm also going to add a static method that fetches a list of genres out of the database. So let's go ahead and put that right here. So public static get all genres. And what it's going to do is it's just going to call a static method in my data class. So it's going to say database dot get all genres. And then it's going to return whatever that call returns. Now the reason I'm creating this basically dummy static method on my genre class, I'll talk about more next week when we talk about n-tier architecture. So just bear with me for now. And then the return type here, it's going to be an array list of genre objects. And let me import array list. So the basic idea here is when I call database.getAllGenres, it's going to run a database query, and it's going to get back a list of genres, and then it's going to turn that into an array list of genre objects and return that, and then we're going to return that as well out of our static method in the genre class. So let's go ahead and call that in here in our main UI constructor. So I'm just going to call genre.getAllGenres. And let's say array list of genres is equal to that. And then for now, let's do for genre and genres system.out.println genre.getName. So that's just going to write each genre to the console for now. So now we have the thing that calls the getAllGenres method in our genre class, and that calls getAllGenres in our database class. So let's go ahead and add that here. So that's going to be public static array list of genre get all genres, and then I have to import genre from my logic class, import array list from utils. It's actually java.util.ArrayList. And here's the actual database code. So first I'm going to open a connection if there isn't one already. Non-static method connect. This should have been static. Public static void connect. Okay, so first I open my connection, and then I'm going to be using prepared statements. Here I don't actually need a prepared statement for this one because there aren't going to be any parameters, but I might as well show you the right way to do it early, and if I decide to add a parameter later on, it's not going to make my life more complicated to do that. So the first thing I want is I want to say connection prepare statement, and then I have to give it a SQL string. So this will be get all genres SQL. And then the actual SQL command is select distinct genre from, and then the actual database is basically here. This is what I want to do. So select distinct genre from title genre. So I think this is the actual query I want. Let me go ahead and execute it, see if it works. Yeah, so there's all the genres. So I'm going to copy that query and paste it in here. So I prepare my statement. This can return a SQL exception or throw a SQL exception. So I'm going to go ahead and surround this with try catch. So first you prepare the statement, and that's going to be a statement. Statement stmt equals connection.prepare statement. So first you make a statement, first you prepare the statement, then you would bind parameters to the statement, but I don't have any parameters in this particular one. And then you execute the statement. Oh, so it's actually prepared statement up here that I want. So let's try that. And I think this is execute query. And then that's going to return a result set. Okay, and then when I do result set dot next, that's going to fetch the first row, and when I do next, it'll fetch the next row, and so on. And then when I do a next and it returns null, that means I've run out of rows. So I'm going to put this inside of a while loop. So while rs.next, that means I got a row. And I want to add these rows to an array list of genres. So I'm on the first row of data, and I'm going to make a new genre object and then add that to my genres. So genres.add new genre, and then result set dot get string, and then the column is genre. So basically this takes the row, the first row of my data, fetches the value in the genre column, makes a genre object, and then adds that to my array list of genres. And then I want to initialize that. New array list, like so. Okay, so this will continue until I've run out, and then I'm going to return genres. And then here, I need a return statement as well. So actually what I want to do is just always do the return here. So if I had any rows coming back, I'm going to add them all to genres and return genres. If I didn't have any rows, or I had a connect problem, then I'm just going to be returning an empty array list. So let's go ahead and execute this and see what we get. Okay, so I got an error. Let's go ahead and no suitable driver found for JTDS.jdbc. So I probably either got the order wrong here or misspelled SQL Serve. So let's try. Actually, let's take a look at our documentation. So I'm going to go back to documentation. Actually, probably the FAQ is a good place. So JDBC. Yeah. So it's JDBC colon JTDS and then SQL Server. So let's go ahead and fix that. So JDBC JTDS SQL Server and then that. Okay. No suitable driver found for JDBC JTDS SQL Server. Let's look one more time. JDBC JTDS SQL Server. JDBC JTDS SQL Server. Host instance port database. Okay, so that part looks okay. Let me make sure that I got it to recognize my library correctly. Good, so that's the right one. Oh, okay, so it didn't add it last time for some reason. Not quite sure why. But let's try it now. Okay, so it fired up my interface and it also printed out the list of genres. So to actually get the genres in this thing here, I'm going to go ahead and exit that. And then in my constructor in main UI, for this create genre combo, I'm going to move this code into there. So let's go ahead and paste that in here. Oops. And then I don't actually need a model to add these to the combo box. So what I'm going to do is just do my combo box genre combo dot add item. And then genre.getName, and that's going to go inside of the loop instead of my print line. And I think that's it. So let's go ahead and hit run and see if it works. Okay, so it looks like I got all my stuff in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this combo box as well. So that's going to be the distinct types from title basics. So once again, I'm going to start in the database, and let's go ahead and copy that query. And this will be get all types. So select distinct type from title basics. And then this thing is going to be the same, except the query is different. So this is going to be get all types. And this is going to have an array list of type. Let's call that show type, actually, because type is a little generic. So let's do get all show types. And that's going to return an array list of show types. Get all types. And that's going to make a new show type. Type column. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, distinct type. And then return types. And then I need a show type class, and that goes in logic. And code is pretty much the same here, so let me just go ahead and copy and paste. So this is a show type. And that has a name property as well. Get all show types. Like so. That looks about right. And then we'll import show type. And that will be types. And that's show type. And that should be it. Okay, so now we have a method to fetch that data. And now let's use it in our create type combo. So it's going to look just like this. Except this is going to be show type, show type, show type, show type. And this is going to be types. Let's import show type, and that's going to be get all show types. Okay, show type, found array list of show type, found genre. So let's look at that. So that should be show type. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. And this is type combo. So that one worked, but I got an error on the second query. Invalid column name type. So let's actually look at the query here. So select distinct, undo, title type. Okay, so I wanted title type. So let's go back to the query here in database. Let's try it now. Okay, so I have my genres and I have my types.